Ancients are known by many names, including the Alterans, the Lanteans, and others, hailing from a distant galaxy where they were called Altera. Their inventions, and most importantly, their theory of Ascension, draw parallels to many things happening in the modern world. Although fictional, it's symbolic, including the fact that they were the ones who built a pathway for the Stargates. They discovered several galaxies, resulting in the creation of several planets. Here's a look at this superior race, also known as the first humans. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who were the ancients in the Stargate universe? On the planet Ernest, also known as planet P3X972, which was renamed PB2908, when Daniel Jackson, one of the main officials of Stargate SG-1, visited the library room, he saw the descriptions of 4 alien races on the walls. One of these 4 races Daniel recognized as the Asgard, whom he remembered from his incidents on Cimmeria with Thor's hammer. When these writings were sent to planet P3R-272 for investigation, they matched one of the 4 races, making Daniel confirm his guess about the Asgard race. They would help Earth's war against the Goa'uld if they were allies. To know more, Daniel and the team went to the planet where Jack O'Neill, whose genetic composition matched that of the ancients, downloaded information from the repository of knowledge. Jack read the inscriptions in medieval Latin and fed the SGC's dialing computer database with 8 new Stargate addresses. Here, Jack translated many of the inscriptions, which gave evidence of the race called the Ancients. Collating these clues led Daniel to study the histories of Rome, from which he inferred that the ancients had built the Stargate network. Daniel concluded that the Latin-speaking Romans built roads to the gods and were known as the Ancient Gods. Later, Jack used the knowledge gained from the ancients to create a power supply that would allow the SGC to connect to a Stargate in some other galaxy. Using the device, which was found in the center of the room that relayed a universal language depicted with pictorial images decoding the basic elements of a periodic table, Jack fed the SGC an 8-symbol Stargate address, wherein the extra symbol was used to add the distance calculated to the standard 7-symbol address, 6 points in space and a point of origin. Later, Jack visited Othala in the Ida galaxy, and the Asgard erased the ancient information from Jack's mind. The alliances with the Asgard and Thor on Cimmeria helped seal Earth's association with this powerful race, the Ancients. This joining of hands with an advanced race helped in saving many lives across galaxies. Daniel was particularly excited about the device, a trove of information, and didn't mind studying it even if he was left stranded on the planet, and rightfully so. Daniel's guess that the ancients were road builders of Stargates was proven right when Jack met the Asgards in Othala. As per the Asgards, thousands of years ago, 4 powerful races were allied: the Asgards, the Ancients, the Furlings, and the Nox. However, the Ancients moved to another galaxy later on. What is known about the ancients' physical appearance, physiology, and anatomy? The ancients looked a lot like humans, and the marked differences between a modern human and an ancient were only because they were centuries apart and the changes that the race underwent due to evolution. Ancients are ascendants of humans, as per Dr. Carter and Dr. Fraser's scientific analysis. The ancients had evolved centuries before humans, thus paving the path for the evolution of humans. The ancients had different body types, but largely they were like the humans even in neurological setup. The ancients, being the first of humans, had advanced mental abilities, could heal with touch, had enhanced sensory abilities, and possessed the power of telekinesis. Their genetic design had a specific gene known as the activation gene, which enabled the race to activate and interact with their sensitively made technology, such as control chairs and more. Their genetic design was so advanced that it allowed them to stay suspended for millions of years. One of the most crucial parts of their physiology was their ability to separate themselves from their physical bodies, better known as Ascension. As a philosophy, they believed not to interfere with the laws of the universe. Every change needed to be organic and not a force fit. Ascension allowed the ancients to go into a higher plane and live eternally in the form of energy. It gave them unimaginably immense power, enabling them to destroy large armies just by thinking about it. Philosophy of the Ancients. The ancients believed that trying to speed up ascension was a crime of the highest order. The supreme others who took on natural ascension acted against those who interfered with non-interference rules and took punitive actions to ostracize the offender. Oma de Sala was one such person who had facilitated the ascension of people. It's not clear whether Oma was an ancient, but she had a process that she followed to help people ascend. She guided individuals on the path and was able to open the door to the higher plane, and it was upon the individual to decide whether they wanted to ascend or not. Oma told them that the secret to climbing had to be selfless. Only then would they qualify to walk this great path. She conducted her acts on the planet Keb in a Buddhist temple where people learned about ascension. Once Oma made a mistake in her judgment by teaching the devious Lord Anubis how to ascend. Anubis tricked her by passing her tests and learned the art of ascension. Once he did, the others punished Oma by not descending Anubis and making her watch the carnage he caused by using his newly acquired power in the Goa'ul's war against other galaxies. She was made to realize why strict rules were in place for a reason. Like Oma, Orlin was also ostracized because he used his powers to help the Valona people fight the Goa'uld by assisting them in building an orbital weapon. When the threat was tackled, the people of Valona used Orlin's gift to capture other galaxies. Similarly, Cheasar, who possessed the Ancient's technology activation gene, met the Other's wrath when she helped her people of Proculus protect themselves from the Wraith attack. Due to this, she could never help anyone else in the Pegasus galaxy despite knowing their plight. There was nothing more painful. What is Ascension, and why do the Ancients guard it with their lives? The Ascension theory started with Ori, who was part of the Alterans race. The Ori figured that due to their extraordinary abilities and power, they deserved to be worshipped by mortals. This worship results in energy transfer. However, many mortal beings would be required to feel the tangible effect of the energy transfer. The attitude of the Ori and the manipulation of the higher plane irked the Ancients to such an extent that they made the rules stricter. They knew the temptation to meddle and get people from lower planes to align with the high power was corrupting the sanctity of Ascension. To top it all, power acquired artificially makes one vulnerable. What if those who are worshipping you are removed? It results in an obvious energy depletion, as seen when the Ark of Truth was exposed. This vulnerability weakens the Ascended One, who is less powerful than those who have acquired it naturally. Stricter rules meant cruel punishments, but they had to be done to protect the order of free will. Otherwise, what would be the difference between them and the Ori? What is the Ancient Gene, and why is it significant? The Ancient Technology Activation Gene, or ATA gene for short, is a specific re-engineered gene that's embedded in the DNA twist of the Ancients. This reimagined gene was the key to unlocking the usage of all ancient technology. Dr. Carson Beckett of the Atlantis expedition was the first to point out the existence of the ATA gene, which was programmed to instruct various cells in the body to secrete a series of proteins and enzymes that would enable interaction with multiple body parts, such as the skin, the brain, and the nervous system, so that other genes operate the ancient technology by the mere use of thought alone. Remember the phrase, "I think, therefore I am." Although artificially created by the Ancients, this gene has been their strongest legacy and passed down for generations to avoid misusing their technology. Due to the crossbreeding between Ancients and humans, a small number of humans on Earth possess this gene. After the Ancients' ascension nearly 10,000 years ago, this gene has become an almost rare sighting amongst humans, and if anyone possesses it, its use isn't as proficient. The same is true of some humans born in the Pegasus galaxy, where the Ancients had taken refuge when an incurable plague infested Earth and the Milky Way. One fact about the gene is that its potency level varies. In some, it's strong, and in others, it's less so. Depending on the potency, the user's ability to operate the Ancients' technology will vary. A way to test the strength of a gene is by using ancient handheld medical scanners. The Atlantis expedition, which was starting to look for the lost ship that the Ancients boarded to leave Earth, uses Chair Interface Aptitude, or CIA, a ranking system to detect the potency of the ATA gene. The ranking is based on the ATA gene carrier's ability to use the ancient control chair, a crucial high-tech technology requiring the gene and the user's mental IQ. The people who ranked the highest in Atlantis were Lieutenant Colonel John Shepard and Dr. Carson Beckett, who was a close second. What adds to this ranking is the user's familiarity with the technology. For instance, those who have used a repository of knowledge, a downloading device that the Ancients had created. As previously mentioned, Colonel Jack O'Neill, the Lieutenant General of the Stargate program who possessed a strong ATA gene, could easily use the control chair without much effort. However, he had difficulty activating the Ancients' cloaking device, the Puddle Jumper. Why? In the former case, he was under the influence of the repository, but in the latter he wasn't, so he couldn't operate it. Contrary to this incident, Colonel O'Neill is said to possess a strong version of the gene since he tackled the Kinahi control and dodged the Shefet surveillance network by flying the time jumper effortlessly. Strangely, no one at Area 51 who possessed the gene could best this act. Colonel Jack O'Neill's counterpart in an alternate timeline showed similar finesse in using the time jumper despite not being exposed to any Ancients technology before. This confirms that O'Neill, Shepard, and Beckett are carriers of the most potent form of the Ancients gene and also belong to the same cluster of the ATA gene. They are also related if the past 8 generations were listed out. In 2004, the Atlantis expedition started artificially implanting the ATA gene in humans by using in vivo retroviral gene therapy. However, only half of those showed the ATA gene. The presence of the gene wasn't permanent, and it's unclear if these artificially inseminated carriers will show a high ranking on the CIA meter. The highest to rank in the gene potency and prove the therapy successful was Stargate's astrophysicist Dr. Rodney McKay, which helped him further study the ATA gene. The ability to strengthen the gene is not just the inheritance, it's also got to do with how much the carrier is willing to let go, which made Shepard a stronger carrier than O'Neill, who had trouble letting go. Usage in ancient technology. The basic functionality of the Ancients' technology depended on genes, and the technology was such that it could detect the presence of genes in humans through touch. However, there are exceptions. Some technologies need the carrier of the gene to activate it, after which it can remain active and anyone could operate it. The technology used in long-range communication stones is an example of a one-time touch from the gene carrier. The communication stones, also known as LRCSs, are palm-sized triangular stones with designs on the top that establish a telepathic or psychic link with the last person who touched them. Other technologies, such as the control chair or puddle jumper, require users to use their thoughts to make it work. Control chairs, the basis of its functioning, require establishing a mental connection with the user to follow the commands. The puddle jumper, which veils its appearance to avoid detection, also establishes a neural surface with the user to follow commands. Ancient technology strictly worked on the mental ability of the user to control and use it, which wasn't a problem for the Ancients who were already on a higher plane. Still, for humans who haven't trained their minds or followed a regime to do so, it could be a problem. Lack of mental stimulus can give negative results. For instance, when Dr. Rodney McKay tried to test Ancient Technology's personal shield emitter that shields the wearer from any danger, Rodney couldn't remove it because of fear in his subconscious mind. The device misinterpreted his fear as his inclination for the device to stay active. Being a bodysuit, the shield was hampering his food intake, so Dr. Elizabeth Weir, the civilian commander of the Stargate Command, eased him out of the situation by reminding him of the dangers of wearing the shield. It was a trick, and it worked. He was able to release the fear and get out of the bodysuit. In a similar situation, Dr. Carson Beckett shot down a drone while seated on the control chair because he felt pressured by McKay. The drone almost shot down a stray helicopter nearby. Who was Ayiana, and why was she significant in understanding ancient physiology? Ayiana got her name from the Tari while living on Earth. She's actually Scylla Urbanus, who resided on Earth 10 million years ago. When the Ancients left Earth and the Milky Way for the Pegasus Galaxy on the Atlantis due to the ancient contagion ravaging Earth, Scylla was the only Ancient left behind. The place where she was left behind was referred to as the Outpost, which, unknown to anyone, later became Antarctica. After saying goodbye, she witnessed Atlantis activate the star drive and disappear into the atmosphere. 2002. Millions of years later, Ayiana was found in a block of ice a few meters away from where the second Stargate was discovered nearly 4 years prior. When Dr. Francine Michaels defrosted her at the Antarctica Research Station, she was shocked that Ayiana was alive and could regenerate herself. The name Ayiana, too, was given to her by Dr. Francine, meaning eternal bloom. Dr. Janet Fraser, Chief Medical Officer of Stargate Command, wanted to study her. Ayiana proved that the Ancients were superior beings with advanced technology who resided on Earth almost 1 million years ago. They were termed the first evolution of humanity, while those living on Earth now belonged to the second evolution. After being revived and spending a few hours at the research station, she started to understand the crew's language, i.e. English. She even spoke the language, depicting the fast learning abilities of her clan. Ayiana could heal herself, but was weakened when she tried to heal others. However, since the ancient contagion had infected Scylla, she had also infected the other researchers, including Dr. Fraser. She therefore used up all of her power to revive them until she fell sick due to exhaustion. She died at Stargate Command, leaving behind O'Neill, who hadn't been cured of the contagion. Luckily for him, he was revived later using a Tok'ra symbiote known for its compassion. 2005. About 3 years later, the contagion that had ravaged the Ancients bore similarities to the biological weapon that the Ori, aka Ascended Alterans, had developed. Was it the Ori that had spread the plague? The answer remained unclear. Can Ascended Ancients return to human form? The answer to that is yes. Case in point is Orlin, who ascended to a higher plane later and was permitted to descend as a normal being to help the Tari work on a cure for the prior plague. As we understand, the Ancients permitted their brethren to descend if it was for a good cause. Again, the ancient Merlin, the High Counselor of the Council of Atlantis, descended after he figured the Ori were a threat that needed to be exterminated. Merlin gave his all in using the Ancients' knowledge to build a weapon, Sangral, that would destroy ascended beings. While he was at it, the others asked Morgan Le Fay, Merlin's rival, to watch Merlin as a precautionary step. When Merlin finished preparing his deadly weapon, Morgan destroyed it at the order of the others. Later, when Morgan came to believe that the Ori were indeed a threat as foreseen by Merlin, she kept Merlin hidden in a suspended state so that, if required, he could be reanimated to rebuild the weapon. How do ancient healing devices work? The ancient healing device, better known as the Telchax device, was created by the Ancients. It was a cube made up of a very rare form of chemical called the Naquadah. The device was dotted with numerous buttons that lined the sides with ancient symbols. The main purpose of this device was to heal, which was tuned to work at the hands of the Ancients alone, who were a far evolved type of human. Anyone else trying to use it could end up becoming mentally unstable if directly exposed to the device. The device was so powerful that it could not only give life to the dead, but also induce life into something that was never alive. An example of the reanimation of dead people was Chalo and Volnek, who ended up as zombies and became capable of operating complex weapons. They became so dangerous that they had to be blasted with grenades. If they hadn't been stopped, they would have soaked up all that firepower and would become such that they could be put to rest only temporarily and would rise again. To avoid the reckless versions of Chalo and Volnek, the Cull Warriors were created, and the host body was first grown with dead tissue, and then life was induced using the Telchac device. While this results in a zombie, they were controlled by planting a live Goa'uld symbiote. Therefore, the symbiote controlled a slave-like zombie, and its personality was made as required by Anubis. This happened in the episodes SG-1 Evolution Part 1 and Part 2. It's said that the Goa'uld who built an empire stole the Ancients' technology. When the Ancients left for the Pegasus, Telchac, a Goa'uld, used the healing device to create the first sarcophagus. Anubis went to war with Telchac to get the device. Later, when Anubis gained Ascension with Oma's help, he used his knowledge about the Ancients' technology and created the Cull Warriors. Luckily for Earth, the SGC located the original device and gave it to Tok'ra to create a disruptor for the Cull Warriors. One cube-shaped device with inscriptions was hidden away in Honduras to create a fake belief about the Fountain of Youth. How did the Ancients seed life across galaxies? Millions of years ago, the first evolved humans, the Alterans, lived in harmony as one community who were on the divine path to ascension in the Alteran home galaxy. A rift in the community led to the formation of two groups: the Ancients, who called themselves the Alterans, who were believers of science, and the Ori, who became more religiously inclined in their beliefs. The Ori became so religious that they attempted to wipe out the Alterans/Ancients. Later, the Ancients, who were few in the community, decided to avoid bloodshed and took the high road by leaving the galaxy. They built themselves a ship and left their galaxy. The Ori remained. Although both ascended, their paths were different. Once the Ancients left, they chanced upon a galaxy of stars, the Milky Way, Astrea Porta, as said by Daniel Jackson, which the Ancients named Avalon, their home. The Ancients took over the planets Dakara and Terra, later known as Earth. They went on to build many more Astrea Porta, created zero-point modules, and set up small colonies on many planets of the Milky Way, including one on Terra. Over 50 million years ago, the earliest outposts were built. Second Exodus happened when the Alterans' home galaxy was hit about 5 million years ago by a contagious plague so fatal that it almost eradicated the Ancients. The deadly plague originated at the construction site of their new capital, Vis Uban, and spread like wildfire, taking down most of the galaxy. The Ancients tried their best to go back in time to stop the plague but didn't succeed, so the surviving Ancients built themselves a ship, or you could call it a spacefaring city named Atlantis, and set out on a journey to the Pegasus galaxy. The ancients put to use their advanced technology and the Stargate network to create and enhance humanoid life. During their stay in the Milky Way and Pegasus galaxies, they orchestrated procreation and led an evolution to create human civilizations similar in genetic design to themselves. They were selfless in their idea of making humans benefit from their knowledge, but were at the same time strict about the philosophy of non-interference. How did their conflict with the Ori differ from the Wraith War? As previously mentioned, the war with the Ori was based on a difference in ideology, while the Wraith War was a struggle for survival. Wraith War. The ancients experimented on a frozen planet to vaccinate themselves from the Iratus bug to seal their immortality. This experiment was important to compensate for the ancients' failure in Ascension. 100 males and 100 females from several ancient planets, such as Athos, were made to be subjects of this experiment, resulting in the first Wraith. After the experiment, only 99 males and 9 women were alive. A leader among them, Osprey, learned the ancients' telepathy technology and escaped to Athos using the Stargate pathway. They carried the ZPM, zero-point module, and a weapon that would kill anyone who possessed the Wraith DNA. While the ancients hunted down the first Wraith, at some point, the ancients were outnumbered by the Wraiths. The Wraiths sought revenge for what the ancients had done to them. They started consuming the ancients as food. What led to the downfall of the ancients? Information about the ancients is never complete without mentioning the Wraith War. The ancients fought the Wraiths for a century, where the ancients were the superior race with the advantage of advanced technology such as the crystalline technology, which put the Wraiths on the back foot. The Wraiths stood no chance with their organic technology against the ancients. One warship was enough to damage several hive ships of the Wraiths. In addition, the ancients had the power shield technology to fight them. The superiority of the ancients made them arrogant, and they sent their warships deep into Wraith territory to fight them. Soon the Wraiths started hijacking their warships and stole the ZMPs to empower themselves with the ancients' technology. Despite incurring great losses, the Wraiths finally had a considerable chunk of the ancients' vessels, which were sources of energy and power. The Wraith used their technology and created a cloning facility to outnumber the ancients. The ancients were soon facing defeat at the hands of their so-called underestimated enemy. Wraith ships destroyed by the ancients' Altera device were revived 10,000 years later. The Wraiths had risen. Their energy was wearing away the ancients, who now gave it their all to defeat the Wraiths. They used their advanced technology to help them regain what they lost to the Wraiths. For instance, the Project Arcturus was formed to bring back the ZMPs. They created the Alterans, which were nanites, to kill the Wraiths on a cellular level. But both these measures failed. The ancients were losing the battle. Finally, towards the war's end, the ancients developed a device called the Dolmer on the planet Halcyon on the edge of the Pegasus galaxy. The Dolmen deactivated any Wraith ship in the vicinity and sent it into an animalistic state, causing great loss to the Wraiths. No hive ship could go through to Atlantis due to the Dolmen. The hive ships had no choice but to orbit the ancients' forces. The ancients figured they had to reinforce their attack and hope to return, but they didn't return, while the Wraiths went insane from starvation just by waiting in their hive ships. A last-ditch attempt was made to negotiate peace, but it failed as the ancients lost their most powerful ships. In the final battle of P7L418, the planet had an ancients' lab used for weapons development, which was then used to defend themselves and their capital ships. They managed to defeat the Wraith, but had to retreat to sustain. The ancients even lost their biggest warship, the Aurora class, along with several others, leading to the siege of Atlantis. It was the Wraith's perseverance that made them continue with their conquest. Although the ancients had brought down all of the Wraith's hive ships, their sheer numbers led to their defeat. The ancients were exhausted out of their minds, Atlantis was facing defeat, and the mighty had fallen when the Council of Atlantis decided to flee the galaxy. They returned to Earth using the Stargate pathway, hoping that they would return to Atlantis one day. They couldn't do much since even the residents of the Pegasus galaxy were now under the reign of the Wraiths. With the ancients gone, the Wraiths descended on Atlantis to celebrate their victory and began consuming the population of the Pegasus galaxy. But their win was short-lived since they were attacked by an army known as the Resurgent Ancients, who were none other than the ancients' programmed Alterans. While the Wraiths would win the war with them as well, it came at a cost. Marvelous verdict! The Ancients and Wraith War reminds us of all the wars that felt one-sided but turned out to wear out both parties, such as the famous feud between David and Goliath. The ancients were known to be a superior race who had created such game-changing technology, yet one mistake led to their downfall. Why did they have to experiment on the wraiths? This means even the ancients violated their own rules of non-interference. Why did the ancients want immortality if they believed in the law of nature? This thinking, according to us, makes them hypocrites and led to their downfall despite being such a celebrated race. We are second evolution humans, probably reaping the benefits of the ancients, yet it makes me sad that they were responsible for the wraiths. Even the greatest empires are capable of some truly heinous acts. But with that thought, this video comes to an end. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.